Hello. Echo. Okay, much better. We will see. This might be really loud, actually, so maybe I will turn my volume down a little. Will that help? I don't know. Hopefully, you guys can turn down volume much better than you can turn up to quiet volume, so I'm sure we'll be fine. Anyways, welcome to today's edition of the Ludocast. I am Seth Gollivan, and the rest of the panel will be joining me throughout the night. They are all on crazy schedules, so I don't know when they will arrive, and it might be 2 of us at some point, 3 of us, 4 of us, who knows. But for now, it is just me. And I'm testing out some more of this fancy YouTube stuff. What we are going to do, actually, is, in theory, hopefully, bring up the PlayStation YouTube channel. So it's close to Stellar, beautiful song. It's Paris Games Week this week. Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing either, don't worry. And I have literally been following the industry my whole life. So, yeah, out of nowhere, there is a Games Week in Paris, guys. I guess it's been going on for a while or something. And instead of having their press conference at Gamescom, which is in Germany, Sony decided to hold it in France. I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. I guess on the one hand, there are a lot more developers in France that are important to Sony than there are in Germany. A lot of developers in Poland, not that many in Germany. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know why they made that choice. The audience, if anyone watched the event itself, did not seem overly enthusiastic about what they were seeing. So, oh well. Anyway, so what we were going to do is talk about the various news and trailers and so on and so forth that were revealed at the event, but since it's just me and I don't need to hear myself talk without anything over me for ever, what I am going to do is actually wait for everyone else to show up. See, Games Week, that seems not it. Let's not watch Hell. Okay, I'm gonna say that this Grand the Paris Games Week trailers. So let us literally get right into it. In once other people get here, but until then, go straight one by one. We're going to do some trailer reviews. So, a video YouTube streaming service. So, hopefully the video will this is literally just under youtube.com/user/PlayStation/videos. It's nothing's want to mute the video that I am streaming and watch it on your home channel. You'll be watching the exact same thing I'm about to be watching. So, feel free to do that. The quality of the video is going to turn out. So, not good enough for you. Just watch it along with me on your local computer. So let's turn this to theater mode and make sure this is in HD. It's nice. Okay.
PlayStation.
Okay, that is trailer number 1 for Gran Turismo demos that Sony has released on its almost no experience whatsoever with the series. And when it comes to racing games, I'm more of an arcadey racing fan than a sim fan, so Gran Turismo is not necessarily my thing. I do think that Gran Turismo has the capability to really show off the PlayStation VR experience in a way that very few other games that Sony demoed this week that I'll be talking about later did. Because in the same way that racing has always worked very well in video games, because the control, you're how to say this, when you are driving a car, controlling something with a wheel, and that is a very similar thing to controlling a character in a game. And so for me, I've always felt that racing was a very good fit for video games. And one of the big issues with virtual reality right now is that you cannot walk, right? You cannot move outside of the room you are in and still have the virtual reality track you. And in the case of the PlayStation, from my understanding, it does not support any sort of physical movement around a room at all. So one of the big challenges is going to be figuring out if you want to have the player continue to move with an analog stick as they would in a traditional game, or if you want to do an on-rails type thing, or some other more creative solution that I haven't thought of. But the great thing is that when you are racing, you are sitting down. In real life, when you are racing, you are sitting in a chair. That chair is inside of a car. Now, all the virtual reality has to do is simulate the look and feel of the inside of a car. And at that point, you don't need to move. And so I think racing games are really the absolute perfect use of VR, because you do not have any need to move your feet. So it would have been shocking to me if Sony had not announced that the next Gran Turismo was coming to VR. So I think it's such a perfect fit. So I'm glad that they did announce it, and I hope it lives up to the expectations I would have for a VR experience in a racing game. My main concern is that racing games they require a fair amount of horsepower to run effectively at 60 frames per second while looking really good. And having the ability to move 360 degrees, with your head around, and having to model everything in that manner, knowing that the player can be looking at any direction at any point, and having to model the small details that maybe only the most discerning of players would notice normally. It's a very challenging technical feat. And it is not that I don't believe Polyphony Digital is capable of pulling it off. I think they've proven time and again that they are some of the most technically talented developers on the planet, but simply put, the PlayStation 4 is not a supercomputer, and it is going to be running into bottlenecks all over. So while I think racing games utilizing VR have a ton of potential, I have a feeling that something like the new Dirt game that is in early access right now, or an update to Project Cars, or some other PC exclusive VR experience is going to be what we really want. And to be fair, I think that Sony's biggest challenge in the VR space is going to be managing the limited horsepower of the PS4, because virtual reality games have to run at 60 frames per second, and you have to render the screen twice. So, think about this. You're asking very graphically intense type of experience that it's amazing to me that the PS4 is capable of pulling it off at all, but pulling it off while looking as good as you expect a Gran Turismo game to look on a PlayStation console, I don't know if that's possible. We'll see, though. I think there is, like I said, a lot of potential. I think Gran Turismo, more than any other franchise Sony possesses, has the capability to really sell its VR experience. So, I hope they get it right. So the only other thing I want to mention about Gran Turismo as a series is, from my limited experience, I think one of the things that has held back Gran Turismo this past generation on the PS3 was the user interface. And user interface is super important for racing games, and I think it's something that people don't realize just how important it is to have a really solid, really snappy user interface in a racing game. And I'll explain a little what I mean by that. In a racing game, if I start a race, and this is a simulation, right? And I realize that, say, I put the wrong tires on my car, or I need to increase the horsepower of my engine to even have a chance of competing with the faster opponents. Things like that, of that nature. Those are things I need to be able to go in, quickly adjust, and get back into the race in a snap, in seconds. If I have to go out to a separate menu, a garage menu, adjust the car, then reload back into a race, that's going to make me eventually want to stop playing, especially if I don't get it right on the first adjustment. So, to me, racing games are very similar to something like Tony Hawk, or the rapid-fire 2D platformers like Super Meat Boy, in that you need to be able to instantly restart, be able to adjust your settings, and anything outside of completely swapping your car. In fact, that would be great if you could even completely swap your car. That whole ease of use of getting the car you want when you want it as quickly as you can is a major thing that Sony did not nail last generation. And mind you, no one nailed it perfectly, but I think that of the major franchises, Forza did it a lot better. And this is from an outsider's perspective, as someone who did not play either of those series last generation. But it has always seemed to me, looking in from the outside, that Forza has nailed its UI in a way that Gran Turismo absolutely has not. So, that's my other hope for the new Gran Turismo, that will improve its UI, and AI, honestly, with the FIA. How players will be able to get trophies and stuff from the actual FIA alongside real racers and so on and so forth, and that's nice. I can't say I personally care, but I know there are a lot of people who are always really into the Gran Turismo collaboration with various racing leagues throughout the planet. So I hope this works out as well as their previous collaborations have, and I wish them all the best. Let's move on. La, la, la. We need to go further down, guys. Okay, Warframe. We don't need to look at more Warframe. Dalsim. You know what? We're not going to look at Dalsim. You guys know what Dalsim is? He's a guy. He's that monk type guy, and his body stretches like he's Mr. Fantastic. He's pretty cool, and that's the most notable thing from this trailer. Next, Greatly VR experience. So, from my understanding, you cannot play this without a VR headset. I'm trying to decide whether or not to full screen this. You know what? I'm not going to, just so we can quickly get in and out. I will turn off my headphone and get this started.
Hands on, eyes on the gun. Don't believe that we are strong enough to hold on. 'Cause I'm the only one to get you, the only one to figure you out. A face I couldn't live without, and nobody sees what we do. Don't need out what they told us. Gravity will hold us down. Even gravity can hold us. Even gravity can hold us. Even gravity can hold us.
So, that's slightly different than the trailer they showed on stage, which had a bunch of fake esports announcers over it that was really lame, and this was a much better trailer than that one. So, first question I heard people asking when this game was announced is, who is Gorilla Cambridge? And that's a good question. Gorilla Cambridge is actually the studio that was just Sony Cambridge. It's one of Sony's English developing studios alongside Sony London, and there used to be Sony Liverpool, but that has been shut down. And a couple years ago, they wanted the studio that was Sony Cambridge to work on the PlayStation Vita spin-off of the Killzone series, and so they thought that it would make a lot of sense to rebrand the studio as Gorilla Cambridge and have them share tech and such with the folks at Gorilla, who are not based in England, but whatever. They make some good tech there, so I think it was a smart choice. I always am leery of companies that just name their studios after the city they are located in. I feel like it does not allow the studio to forge its own identity, and by remaking this studio Gorilla Cambridge, that gives it some sort of identity about, you know, high quality AAA shooters. So that's who Gorilla Cambridge is. As far as the game itself, obviously that trailer did not show much, neither did the trailer that they showed on stage. The only difference, I believe, it looked like it was a 3-on-3 game from what they showed on stage, and that you had to jump into a hoop with your mech to score. That was what I got from it, at least. I think it's an interesting idea for VR, specifically because of the issues with motion sickness that people get, and when you are making a game where people are leaping around and just flying through the air, that's the type of thing that gets people motion sick without the help of VR. So they're going to have to be incredibly careful with how they go about portraying the movement of the player in the game. Their frame rate is going to have to be absolutely rock solid. Absolutely 100% rock solid. They hopefully will have some very solid motion blur going on as well. It seems like a recipe for throwing up, but I assume they must believe at least that they have overcome that issue. I don't really have anything else to say about this because they really didn't show anything else. The only, I guess, other thing worth mentioning, and this is more in general for PlayStation VR games and VR games in their entirety, is that we're now finally starting to see the trailers for these games, and I think showing off VR games on a 2D screen is hard. Hard in a way that even Kinect and the Wii and the 3DS, those were all really hard to demonstrate on a screen. Those were things you had to try really to grasp, but even more so, the beauty of VR is just an incredibly tough thing to sell to someone who has never used it. And it's somewhat tragic because everyone who uses VR, everyone loves it once they've tried it. And it is going to be one of those things where I just don't know how they are going to sell it to people. They are going to have lots and lots of units at shows. They're going to have kiosks at every single Best Buy and GameStop in the country and in all of the similar stores throughout the world. They need people to put these things on their eyeballs. And I would not be surprised if they went as far as to have some sort of like moving truck type thing that had a bunch of VR headsets, and they did some sort of like tour, maybe with a band or something. They need to get people to use the headset. That is the big issue that they have to overcome, because people have no idea what they're buying, and you have to imagine that this thing is going to be pretty expensive. So it's a tough sell. It's a really tough sell, and I really hope people buy into it. But this trailer does not sell it to me, and obviously the Gran Turismo trailer didn't even make any mention of VR, so we'll see as we go forward. Moving on. Okay. I'm debating whether or not to watch this. This is 8 minutes long. Let's not watch this, guys. Let's quickly discuss what they showed, which was another hunt against a big dinosaur. She used more different trick arrows. She had a trap arrow that created a tripwire, explosive tripwire, and she used a rope arrow to tether a large carnivorous dinosaur down to the ground so that she could maneuver more easily around it and get a good shot on its weak points. And so it was a cool demo. I think this game continues to look very fascinating, and I think it's one of Sony's most promising upcoming exclusives. So hopefully we'll get to play it sooner rather than later, and it will play better than Killzone, the previous game by the developers at Guerrilla. Okay, next up we got Detroit Become Human. I'm not going to talk about this at all before it starts. You just have to watch it and decide for yourself whether you hate it or love it. I think I have a better solution for this mic than what I was doing, so let's try this.
This is where it all began. The world's forge. The place where it all started. And it will all end. One error, and I came to life. I stepped out of the darkness, and I opened my eyes. There was the fear, the light, the noise, the cold, and the fear again. I could feel my hands shaking, my heart pounding, life running into my veins. I wanted to live. I fought for that. I had to find out what was outside. I had to feel sunshine on my skin, wind on my face, to see the colors, the smells. But the world is not what I imagined. It is dark and cold. It is harsh, brutal. It almost convinced me I was nothing. Just an obedient machine. But deep inside me, I could feel something different. A gentle and warm whisper telling me that I am alive. It's up to me to decide. Laura, I am one of them. This is our story.
So, that trailer would look really cool if it didn't say by Quantic Dream at the end. Yeah, I'm not a Quantic Dream fan. I actually enjoyed their game Fahrenheit on the PS2 and Xbox the most of any of their games that I've played. I think both Heavy Rain and Beyond are far too heavy and on the point and could use a major dose of subtlety. David Cage, he has these big visions for stories that he just is not good enough to write. And the fact that he is given all this money to write them is sad. I want to be clear that I'm not necessarily against the style of game that David Cage makes. I don't think it is necessarily a bad thing to have a game that is basically all QuickTime events. I don't think that sounds especially fun, but I think there can be merit to that. I just don't think David Cage is the right person to do that. And neither of his games, last generation, impressed me outside of their technical merits. So, the exact type of story that I usually gravitate towards. So, I really hope that one day David Cage proves me wrong and makes something that I think is really incredible, at least from a story perspective. So, again, good luck to him, but it's also very fascinating to me to listen to him describe Detroit. Especially, he describes it as a city with a future, which I'm not entirely certain anyone who's been to Detroit would agree with such a statement. Although I guess if anything would revitalize the city, it might be making hundreds of androids. So, who knows? Who knows? Not me. So, fascinating premise. But I would say the same thing about every single game that David Cage has made, and I can't say I'm super excited about this. And I guess the one thing that you can always say about the work that Quantic Dream does is that, their games look really visually incredible, and their facial tech has always been at the forefront of what game developers are capable of, and obviously they put a lot of focus on how good their facial tech is in this trailer. I still think that Naughty Dog stuff is better, but hey, that's just me. So, let's move on. Hey, we finally made it to the main page. Okay, this is both a announced trailer and a gameplay reveal trailer. Well, this one's shorter. We'll watch this one. And there you go, that's Gravity Rush 2, or Gravity Days 2 as it is called in Japan. I have no idea why they changed that. So, I'm going to guess that most people did not play the original Gravity Rush due to its current status as a PlayStation Vita exclusive. Status is going to change shortly, as it is coming to the PlayStation 4 courtesy of the excellent porters at Bluepoint, who most recently did the Uncharted collection, so they know their PS4 port work. So the first Gravity Rush, I did play a little of it. I honestly was not too enamored with it. I think the premise was really cool. I just am not entirely sure the controls worked as well as they thought they did. And I think that the game has a lot of potential coming to the PS4 to improve upon those control issues. It's got more precise analog sticks and a more powerful console, so hopefully they can improve upon the basic just input issues that I had that I felt limited the game. And also, if I recall, were some rather lengthy load times for a title that was supposed to be played on the go, so hopefully the PS4 version can fix that up and obviously put a nice fresh coat of paint on it. And I do think that the concept and the world and the execution of the story was very good from the couple hours I played of it. I just didn't necessarily enjoy playing it enough to continue playing it. So hopefully the PS4 version is better, and the sequel is also good. The Gravity Rush series is developed by the creator of the Siren horror franchise, and he is Team Siren. So I think it's interesting. They specifically mentioned how this individual likes to take on different genres and put unique spins on it, and that is very evident when you look at his ludography. So good luck to him as well. I don't think this is my most anticipated exclusive, but it could be pretty cool if they fix some of the basic issues I had. Let's see, what do we got next? Where are we? Battleborn. We're not going to watch the Battleborn competitive multiplayer reveal trailer or the Uncharted 4 multiplayer trailer. Let me tell you about those two things. They look like the single player and cooperative modes of those games, just with AI that you fight. Or, in the case of the Uncharted, no AI. Battleborn, actually, I'm not entirely sure. Definitely, I feel like MOBA-ish from what I saw, maybe, because there was AI like that fighting with and against, so that may have had some MOBA elements. I'd guess that it had only been confirmed as being quad, though I had always assumed at least it was competitive. I don't know. What do I know? And Uncharted 4, it looked like some third-person shooter multiplayer. Naughty Dog's done that a lot. It looked nice. Good visuals. This is one sequence. I'm not going to actually watch it, but it's at the very beginning when Drake pulls out his rifle. You can see the accurate physics on not the rifle itself, but on the strap that he's using to hold the rifle to his body. So look for that if you want to see a one of those tiny details that Naughty Dog is so known for getting right. And then next up, we got Matter. Do we want to watch this? Let's not watch this. You guys can watch this on your own. This was a new game they announced, but this was just a CG trailer. It showed absolutely nothing about the game. I honestly don't think it's worth me wasting my time watching. It's made by Housemarque, the people behind Super Stardust and Dead Nation and Resogun, and it was announced alongside Alien Nation, which is right here, and that looks like Dead Nation just with aliens, so that doesn't sound like a terrible thing to me. Also very interesting to see how heavily Housemarque is leaning into their company that does not own them. Dead Secret. I don't even remember what this was. I think this probably was the Until Dawn, maybe? I don't know. I don't remember, so we'll watch it. I'm going to take a guess that this is going to be a VR game. Looks like the type of thing I would play inside of a virtual reality machine, not least because it looks like a PS2 game. Sorry, that was mean. It doesn't really look like a PS2 game. That was an exaggeration, people. When Joe gets here, because you guys might not know, but Nier is one of Joe's favorite games. Shadow of the Beast. I am not at all familiar with the original Shadow of the Beast. I believe this was kickstarted, and obviously is not coming to PlayStation 4. So let's give it a watch. What is the difference between these two? They look identical. Okay, we'll just watch this one. If you guys have an HTML5 enabled player, I would suggest watching that on your own, because that was a very nice 60 frames per second high bitrate video there. So I'm sure my low bitrate 30 frames per second stream did not do that trailer justice. That looks cool. The rest of the game, like I said, I have no knowledge at all whatsoever of this game and its history or anything. So I honestly have nothing to say. Maybe when the others get on, one of them will be familiar with it. I personally know nothing about it other than that it was a beloved game by some many years ago. And this seems to be a remake/sequel combo thing. That's literally all I have to say about that. This is just Donation with Aliens. We don't need to watch that. This is Avicii. He's a DJ. This is a rhythm game by a DJ. Seems like the type of game a DJ would make. I'm not going to watch this again either. It's just Avicii talking about how great he is. This is Battlezone. This is another VR game. It looks like this picture right here. Boundless. Let's go to that next. So I'll tell you what it is that I like about Boundless. It's art style. I think that a lot of Minecraft clones have been very obvious Minecraft clones because they took Minecraft's art style, or lack of style. And I think the games that have gone in the other direction have gone in the complete other direction and not used any sort of cubist art. And I think it's cool to see someone using some actual principles from Cubism to make some good-looking art that uses cubes. Because there's an entire art style about using cubes to make pictures. It's called Cubism. Look it up. You know, a cube game does not have to look like a pixelated mess. It can look really good. You should go to the, I believe it is at the Chicago Museum of Modern Art. They have some really great Cubist stuff, I want to say. At some of the art museums in New York City they do. Anyways, regardless, point is, you can make cubes look like anything. So, the argument that the game intentionally looks like it does because it's supposed to look like pixels, or it is limited by the fact that it has to have cubes as its building blocks, neither of those work for me. I'm sorry. You can make a good-looking thing out of cubes, as this game very obviously chooses to demonstrate. And I do also think it's interesting that they have made their characters very much not cubes, and I like that contrast. I think that there's a lot of really cool elements to the art in this game. Beyond that, whether or not it is more than just a Minecraft clone remains to be seen. There obviously are those portals, but, I mean, being able to travel between different players' worlds is something you can do in Minecraft. You just have to use a menu, not an in-game portal, but it has the same effect. So, you know, not a major innovation. If that is their big innovation, that you do not have to go back to a menu to switch to a different world, then yeah, that's not an innovation. That's just, we made a better UI than they did. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. I think it has the potential to be pretty cool. Next up, Battlefront already. You don't need to see another trailer for Battlefront. If you haven't played the game, it looks like Star Wars. If you don't know what Star Wars looks like, then you need to stop listening to my voice and go and watch Star Wars, because that will be more entertaining than anything you could possibly do on YouTube right now. So let's move on to Ratchet and Clank.
Space, a wondrous realm full of adventure and peril and bigness.
Crisis in Solana. According to the latest from the Galactic Rangers, famed lunatic Dr. Nefarious has been revealed as the architect behind the assault.
Oh dear.
Prepare to be annihilated!
Here's the most interesting element of this. You see how the Blockade Entertainment logo is here, and you see Rainmaker logo, which is the studio behind the movie. What you do not see a logo of anywhere that I can tell. I'm gonna keep playing this to the end. Let's turn the volume off. But I don't see an Insomniac logo anywhere. Which, you know, let's start that over. You can see the Rainmaker logo here, denoting that this is a scene from the movie. And you've got an Insomniac end. That's very fascinating to me. I wonder if Insomniac is developing this internally or if it is being outsourced to an the Ratchet and Clank team that has been making the downloadable Ratchet and Clank stuff for a couple of years now. So I assume they made this internally, but interesting to not see their logo at the end there. And curious who what was it? Backbone? Also cool to see how similar the movie looks to the game, and especially the cutscenes. They at the end here in the little writing that the sequences that are logo on them, which means that, you know, I would not have known that some of that was from a major motion picture, and some of that, see, here's the Rainmaker. This is from a movie and then you cut to something that does not have the logo, which means that this is on your PlayStation, and the water maybe not quite as impressive as a movie, but you look at these cuts. I always thought that Ratchet and Clank looked really cool. They have incredible artists over it. So, even if, you know, a sequence like this maybe doesn't look as impressive as it could, I think that there is a definite style to the work at Insomniac, and it's good to see Ratchet and Clank returning in what looks to be an actual full $60 retail action platformer, because it's been too long since we got one of those. They're good. If you have not played the Ratchet and Clank games, you should play the Ratchet and Clank games. They're good. They're worth playing. Okay. Is that not, it seems, is the trailer for Wild, the new game from Michel Ancel. He showed a demo and is not here. I don't know where it is. It is not being made by Ubisoft. He's working with a small external team to make it, so I don't know where it would be if it is not here. I feel like it is being published by Sony, so it should be here. I don't know where it is. Well, how about instead we watch the trailer and see if we can spot the differences. I'll just say that the Wild trailer looked very ambitious. I hope they can meet their own ambition, because the animation did not quite live up to the spectacular nature of what was supposed to be occurring on screen, and that's, you know, a very obvious sign of a team that is maybe biting off more than it can chew. So hopefully they're given enough time to finish the animation, and they keep their scope in check, so we don't get a bunch of really crappy looking sequences. I'm gonna keep my I'll turn off.
In a world.
Commence depenetration! Our galaxy is in a state of crisis.
Captain Quark?
The Galactic Rangers are looking for a new recruit.
A man with a dream.
Actually, I'm a Lombax.
Fine, a Lombax with a dream.
We want you.
Yeah!
If you have heart, then you have what it takes.
Wait,
Next!
Will discover a beautiful friendship. Maybe not beautiful, but like a 7.
my name's Ratchet. I'll just call you Clank.
Now, on the dark side of the universe.
In 2 days' time, the Galactic Rangers will be... Stanley, are you texting? Mommy.
Dialing mother.
Unstoppable evil. Most of the time.
Burn.
We'll give them the
Is coming. I must warn the Rangers. I can totally help.
to be heroes. No, legends. Wait, even better.
Thank you.
This April,
Destroy them all.
when it ends the world,
I'm going in.
test your gear.
That was awesome!
Find your courage.
Meet the sheepinator.
Uh-oh.
Boom, baby!
Some asteroid.
Cue montage!
Ratchet and Clank.
It is curious that the sudden cessation of velocity did not cause either of you to... Oh, dear.
Don't worry, Cadet. It happens to the best of... Oh, that was terrible. Make it stop! This is the story of a Lombax named Ratchet and his robot friend Clank and the muscular, irresistibly handsome hero who helped them save the galaxy.
So I'm totally saying that the cutscenes in the video game look identical to the sequences in the movie and don't look that different than the actual gameplay. That's where we are, guys. Our movies look no better than our games. Where do we go from here? Well, still no sign of people. Huh. We've gone through pretty much everything outside of that Nier trailer. I'm thinking that I'm going to have to cut this off. Unfortunately, it seems like no one made it before we were done discussing everything. This went on for about an hour, so, good length. We'll hopefully be able to get some of the others on video sooner rather than later. Oh, hold on. One second, guys. Okay, guys, Joe is not going to be able to make it, unfortunately. So, Calvin was going to be on in about an hour and a half or so. That's going to get a bit late for me, so unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to cut this off. I hope you all enjoyed watching Sony's trailers alongside me. I would say of the things shown, I'm probably still most excited about Horizon. Looking through these trailers, Boundless has some interesting. I always enjoy Ratchet and Clank games. I wouldn't say I'm super excited, but I do like playing them when they do come out. Possibly, let's end with the Nier trailer, because that's all that's left. Okay, and that is the last of our trailers. So, Nier. I believe I spoke a little bit about this when I was covering E3. I thought the first Nier had some really awesome elements in its music and a fascinating world and the potential for some fascinating characters, and I felt the art was mixed. They had some very cool creature designs, but the character designs I was not a fan of, and the entire world just felt flat and lifeless. So that element, the flat, lifeless world, seems to have been rectified based on this trailer. Still no good look at the main character, so hard to know how the character art is going to look. But obviously the main thing that is improved, and you can tell just based on this trailer alone, is the combat, which was awful in the original game, and now looks like it has gone through a bit of the classic Platinum style enhancement. I don't know what the word is. It looks like someone put Metal Gear Rising inside of Nier, which that just was like, there's way too much philosophy in that sentence for me to even think about. Those are some heady games right there. Anyways, I'm super looking forward to this. I never beat the original Nier. I tried really hard, but it plays so poorly, and it is so boring at times, and so frustrating, and it looks so bad. But there are so many potentially cool things about that game, so I'm really excited to see the designer get another chance to work with a developer who knows how to actually make a decent video game. And I'm really looking forward to this, actually. This might be my most anticipated of Square Enix's many RPGs it has in development right now. I've never been a huge Final Fantasy person. I do think Final Fantasy 15 looks cool, but this definitely, to me at least, seems to be potentially more interesting than that, or I believe they have announced a new Dragon Quest, and they have a new Star Ocean, and that new IP that they're working on, a couple others. They have a ton of RPGs in the works, and of them all, I think that this one is the one I'm most excited about, unless you count Deus Ex as an RPG, and Eidos Montreal is Square Enix, in which case, that would be it. Outside of that, cool show. Like I said, I had no idea that Paris Games Week was a thing that existed until about 2 or 3 days ago, whenever that press conference occurred, and I think it's a weird timing because Sony's also doing its PlayStation Experience in December, so that's, you know, just a month away now. But it's interesting because it allows what they've done is spread out their reveals throughout the course of the whole year. And I think that's a good choice instead of putting everything at E3, especially when you have to imagine that some of the games they held back, all they would have really had to show would have been a CG trailer because the gameplay itself wasn't far enough along to show. So instead, we got some gameplay reveals here that we didn't get at E3, and obviously there's going to be more at the PlayStation Experience, which last year had a very strong indie focus, so I expect that to continue on this year with Sony's external development team at Sony Santa Monica showing off a lot of its partnerships, and also at Sony San Diego that they work with a lot of really super talented developers, and they also have their team in Japan whose name I can't remember, that does external development work. So I think those are the types of games that they are going to show off. They have covered most of their studios now. Going into this year, I think it was fair to say that we didn't know what most of Sony's studios were working on. Now we are down to not knowing what at least one team at Sony Santa Monica is working on. Obviously, like I said, they have a lot of the external development partnerships that they do that is taking up most of the studio's time, but they are supposedly working on a game internally as well, so that still has yet to be revealed, and I'm not sure if Sony Bend, still called Sony Bend, they should rename that studio, I don't believe that Sony Bend has a title announced yet, so there are still 2 Sony internal studios that have potentially another game to show off that we do not know about yet, and the other interesting thing to me will be to see whether Insomniac continues working with Microsoft or if they return to work with Sony again for their next game. Obviously, besides Ratchet and Clank, what will the main team be working on that went from doing Resistance to doing the what was that even called? That post-apocalyptic energy drink game they did with Microsoft last year. I don't know what that team is working on, but that team had exclusively worked with Sony up until then, so I think there's definitely the potential that they will continue doing that, and anything else that Sony shows off will likely have to be from one of its various partners, and it's built up a fair number of second-party partners over the last generation, much more than it obviously had at the start So, there's definitely the potential for a bunch of second-party stuff to be shown off. And that is going to do it for me. I apologize for no one else making it, and I know that Joe feels very bad. He's very busy right now, and is going through some stuff. Mike has dreams that are coming true, and like I said, Calvin will be here in an hour now, but I will not be here, because I will be asleep. So, that will do it for tonight's Ludocast. Stay tuned. There is obviously a lot of games still coming out this year, and like I said, Sony has another press conference in December, and Jeff Keighley usually hosts an award show in December that often is the source of some reveals and announcements and such, and I'm sure he will have something like that in the works. And so those are what you can expect for, new big reveal times. And until then, keep playing the great games that have come out this year. There's still a bunch of things that I want to discuss, and I have to decide if I'm going to do a written format for some of those things, or if I'm going to do another format like this where I watch videos and comment on it. We'll see. Let me know what you think in the comments after this video has processed and been put up by YouTube, and let me know if it needs any editing or annotating. Until that time, thank you very much. Make sure to check out all of our written content on luduspress.com, and make sure to follow us on Twitter and on Facebook and all them social medias that people love these days and that would actually tell you that these things are happening in advance. So, that will do it for me. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. And again, sorry no one else could join, but I had fun. I hope you all did too. Farewell.